The space station of Viralanine was never quiet. Engines hummed, traders shouted prices, and alien voices filled the air with 1,000 strange words. Captain Ryan Hale liked it that way. Noise meant life, and life meant business. He had come only to refuel his small cargo ship, pick up supplies, and maybe enjoy a hot drink before heading to the next job. He leaned on the counter of a small cafe, sipping bitter black coffee. The drink was terrible, but it was warm. Through the glass walls, he watched the station's main concourse. Shops lined the wide path, selling everything from crystal fruits to plasma rifles. Strange creatures walked past, each stranger than the last. Ryan had been to 100 stations, but Viralani had its own charm. No one cared who you were, as long as you paid. That peace shattered in an instant. A sudden alarm echoed through the station, a high-pitched siren that made people freeze. Doors slammed shut, and armored figures poured into the concourse. Federation officers, wearing silver armor with black visors, marched in perfect formation. The crowd parted like water, fear spreading fast. Everyone knew the Federation didn't make public arrests unless it was something big. Ryan put his cup down slowly. He had nothing to hide, but years of travel had taught him one thing when the Federation showed up. You stayed out of the way. The officers moved straight toward the far side of the concourse. They dragged someone between them, a young alien girl, with silver eyes and pale blue skin. Her wrists were bound with glowing restraints, and her long white hair hung loose around her face. She struggled, but the officers held her like she weighed nothing. The girl's eyes scanned the crowd in panic. Then, for no reason Ryan could understand, they locked onto him. It wasn't a casual glance. It was sharp, focused, like she knew him. Ryan frowned. He had never seen her before. Still, the way she stared made something in his chest tighten. Then it happened. One of the officers stopped, turned toward Ryan, and raised a gauntlet hand. His voice came through the helmet speaker, cold and loud. By order of the Galactic Federation, you're under arrest. The entire station went silent. The girl's eyes widened even more, as if she had been expecting this. Ryan stood slowly, hands half raised. He had no idea what they were talking about. He had no charges, no debts, no crimes, at least none the Federation knew about. Two officers broke formation and moved toward him. Ryan's mind raced. Was this a mistake, or was it one of those moments when your past finally caught up to you? Before he could say a word, the officers grabbed his arms and locked them with the same glowing restraints as the girls. The material was cold and heavy, humming with energy. He tested it, but it was solid. No way to break free without special tools. Wait, Ryan said, keeping his voice calm. You've got the wrong guy. The officer didn't even look at him. You'll have your chance to explain during interrogation, he replied flatly. Ryan glanced at the girl again. She was breathing fast, but her eyes didn't leave his. It was as if she wanted to tell him something, but not here, not now. The officers pushed them forward. The crowd stayed silent, watching as Ryan and the girl were marched toward the docking bays. Whispers followed them. Some people looked away, afraid of being connected to whatever this was. Others stared, curious. To see what could make the Federation so bold, they reached a sleek black transport ship. The back hatch opened, and they were shoved inside. Ryan sat across from the girl, both of them in metal seats with restraints locking them down. He leaned slightly forward. "Do you know me?" he asked quietly. The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Yes." Ryan felt his stomach drop. He didn't know whether she was lying, or if there was something about his past he couldn't remember. Her voice was low, almost shaking. "They think you're part of it," she said. "Part of what?" Ryan asked before she could answer. The transport lifted off with a heavy roar. The force pushed them back into their seats. Outside the small window, the lights of Viralanine began to shrink. Ryan knew one thing, whatever was happening. It was far bigger than a simple mistake, and somehow it had just dragged him into the middle of it. The transport ship's walls were dark and smooth, the kind that absorbed every bit of sound. Only the deep thrum of the engines reminded Ryan they were moving. Across from him, the alien girl kept her head down, her silver hair falling like a curtain over her face. 2 Federation guards sat near the door, motionless, their black visors hiding their eyes. Ryan leaned forward slightly, careful not to draw attention. "Why do you say you know me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The girl's gaze flicked up, just for a moment, and he caught the shimmer of her silver eyes. "Because I do," she murmured, then quickly looked away. Her tone wasn't playful or uncertainty, was the kind of certainty that made his skin prickle. He wanted to press her for more, but the hum of the restraints around his wrists kept reminding him they were being watched. The guards didn't move, but Ryan could feel their attention like heat on his skin. He leaned back, eyes narrowing. "All right," he said softly, "then tell me why we're both here." The girl's lips tightened. "They think you're part of the program," she said. "What program?" Ryan asked. "The one they used to make me," she whispered. For a second, Ryan thought she was joking. Her voice was calm, almost flat, but her words carried weight. He remembered the mark on her wrist from earlier, the same faint, glowing shape he had seen on his own arm that morning when the light hit just right. He had thought it was nothing, maybe an old scar, but now it burned in his memory. Before he could ask more, the transport jolted. The lights flickered once, and Ryan felt a shift in the ship's movement. The guards turned their heads slightly, as if listening to something over there comes. The girl's eyes widened, and she sat up straighter. "They're here," she whispered. Ryan frowned. "Who's here?" She didn't answer. She just tensed, every muscle in her small frame coiled like a spring. Then the sound came, muffled at first, then louder. Explosions. Distant but growing closer. The transport shook, and one of the guards moved to secure the door. Ryan looked at the girl, and she gave the smallest nod. Whatever was happening outside wasn't part of the Federation's plan, for the first time. Since his arrest, Ryan felt a flicker of hope if chaos was coming. Maybe it could work in their favor. The ship banked hard to the right, the sudden movement throwing them against their restraints. The girl used the moment to twist her wrists. In a strange motion, Ryan's eyes widened as her restraints flickered, then simply dissolved into thin air. She caught his look and whispered, "I told you they made me." Before he could process her words, she reached over, her fingers brushing against his restraints. A small burst of blue light, and his cuffs fell apart. The guards hadn't noticed yet, too focused on whatever was happening outside. Ryan's instincts screamed at him. This was the moment. He didn't know who was attacking the ship or why, but he knew one thing. If they stayed here, they'd end up in a Federation cell or worse. The girl's silver eyes locked onto his. "Do you trust me?" she asked quickly. Ryan hesitated for half a heartbeat, then nodded. "Good," she said. "Because we have less than a minute before that door opens." The ship rocked again, a deafening blast shaking its hull. Somewhere in the distance, alarms blared. Ryan's heart pounded as he realized he had just gone from prisoner to fugitive without taking a single step. And the only person who could tell him why was the strange, dangerous girl sitting across from him. The sound of metal tearing filled the cabin, sharp and violent. Ryan turned just in time to see the transport's rear hatch buckle inward. A glowing blade cut through the steel like it was soft cloth. The guards leapt to their feet, weapons drawn, shouting orders into their comms. The girl didn't wait. She grabbed Ryan's wrist and pulled him toward the corner of the cabin. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Stay low," she hissed. The hatch exploded inward, smoke spilling into the cabin. Figures in dark armor poured through pirates. By the look of their mismatched gear and painted helmets, They fired shock rounds, bright blue bolts that knocked one guard flat. The second guard tried to fight back, but a pirate slammed him into the wall and pinned him there. Chaos filled the cabin. Ryan's instincts screamed at him to move. The girl shoved a small, flat device into his hand. "Press this when I say," she ordered. She darted toward the nearest pirate and spoke quickly in a language Ryan didn't understand. The pirate hesitated, then gave her a sharp nod and tossed her a keycard. She slid it into the side panel by the emergency door. The locks clicked open. "Now," she shouted. Ryan pressed the device, and a pulse of static rippled. Through the air, the restraints on the guards shorted out. Sparks flashing across their armor, they collapsed, stunned but alive. "Move," the girl said, yanking Ryan toward the door. They stumbled into a narrow service corridor lit only by red emergency lights. The air smelled of burning wires. Somewhere deeper in the ship, more explosions shook the walls. Ryan could hear the distant shouts of Federation soldiers mixed with the rough voices of the pirates. "Where are we going?" he demanded as they ran. "A way out." She answered without looking back. Her voice was steady, but there was urgency in every step. Ryan wasn't sure if he was escaping with a friend or running into the hands of someone even worse. Still, she seemed to know exactly where to go. She turned sharply, leading him to a small hatch in the floor. She pried it open and dropped inside without hesitation. "Come on," she called, her voice echoing from below. Ryan followed, landing in a cramped maintenance tunnel. Pipes hissed overhead, and the metal floor vibrated under their boots. The girl moved quickly, ducking under low beams and weaving between thick cables. Every so often, she glanced over her shoulder to make sure he was still behind her. Finally, they reached a hatch marked with alien symbols. She punched a code into a side panel, and the door slid open, revealing a tiny docking bay. Inside sat a battered two-seat escape craft. Its hull was scratched, its paint faded, but its engine hummed like it was ready to fly. Ryan hesitated. "This is yours?" he asked. "No," she said. Climbing into the pilot's seat, "It's stolen," before Ryan could reply. The docking bay doors started to open, an alarm blared overhead, and voices shouted from the corridor they'd just come from. "Strap in," the girl said. Ryan dropped into the co-pilot's seat and yanked the harness across his chest. The craft lifted, engines roaring through the cockpit glass. Ryan saw the black emptiness of space open before them. The girl pushed the throttle forward, and the ship shot out into the void. Behind them, the transport shrank to a speck, and a swarm of smaller ships began to chase. Ryan glanced at her. "Now do you want to tell me what's going on?" he asked. Her eyes stayed on the stars ahead. "They'll kill us if they catch us," she said, "and they'll never stop hunting." Ryan's pulse quickened. She had just turned his whole life into a fight for survival land. He didn't even know her full name. The chase lasted for hours, or at least it felt that way. The escape craft weaved through asteroid fields and narrow debris trails, each turn barely keeping them ahead of the ships behind. Ryan's hands gripped the console, but the girl's focus never wavered. She flew like someone who had been running her whole life. Finally, the radar cleared, the pursuing dots vanishing one by one. Ryan let out a long breath, but the girl didn't relax. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To a place the Federation doesn't know about," she said, her voice calm but quick. He glanced at the navigation screen, but the coordinates meant nothing to him. The route they were taking wasn't on any standard map. The stars ahead grew brighter, and soon a planet came into view. It was covered in thick green jungles and swirling clouds, with vast rivers that shone like silver under the sun. The girl guided the ship down through the atmosphere, the windows fogged with heat as they descended. Ryan watched as the jungle stretched for miles in every direction. Huge trees with glowing leaves reached toward the sky, Bird-like creatures with crystal wings soared between them. There were no signs of cities or spaceports, only raw, untouched nature. They landed in a clearing beside the ruins of something ancient. Tall stone pillars carved with strange patterns surrounded a broken plaza. Vines crawled over the surfaces. But the carvings were still sharp and clear. Ryan stepped out of the craft. The warm air, heavy with the scent of flowers and earth. This place. He murmured, "It's old." The girl nodded, her silver eyes scanning the ruins. "It's older than the Federation," she said. "Older than most of the galaxy knows." Ryan ran his fingers over one of the carvings. A spiral design caught his attention. It was the same shape as the faint mark on his arm. His chest tightened. "This is on me," he said, pulling up his sleeve. The girl stepped closer. Her gaze fixed on the mark. "It's not just on you," she said, turning her wrist to show the same glowing spiral. "This planet is where it began." She added softly before Ryan could speak. A faint hum filled the air. In the center of the plaza, a circular platform lit up. A shimmering projection appeared, a tall figure in ancient armor, speaking in a voice that seemed to echo through the ground itself. Ryan didn't understand the words, but the image pointed at him. Then at the girl. The projection shifted, showing battles, falling cities, and finally a symbol, the spiral shining over a crowd of people. The image faded, and the platform went dark again. Ryan stood frozen. "What was that?" he asked. "A warning," the girl said, her voice low, "and a promise." She turned toward him. "You're part of something they've been trying to erase for centuries." They stayed in the ruins until night fell. The jungle was alive with strange sounds, soft whistles, deep growls, and the crackle of unseen creatures moving through the trees. Ryan built a small fire, though the girl warned him that light might attract attention. "I'd rather see what's coming," he replied. She didn't argue, but her eyes kept scanning the shadows beyond the ruins. When dawn came, a group emerged from the trees. 4 aliens, tall and lean, their skin a dark green. With faint markings like leaves, they carried simple weapons and moved with silent precision. Ryan stood, ready for trouble, but the girl raised her hand. "They're friends," she said. The leader stepped forward, speaking in a language Ryan didn't know. The girl answered in the same tongue, her tone calm, almost relieved. They offered food, sweet fruits, and bread that smelled faintly of spice. Ryan ate cautiously, watching the newcomers. They seemed relaxed, but there was something in their eyes. A quick glance exchanged between 2 of them. A subtle tightening of their grips on their weapons. Ryan's gut tightened. He had seen that look before. It was the look of people hiding something. Later, as the group led them deeper into the jungle, Ryan hung back with the girl. "You sure we can trust them?" he asked quietly. She hesitated before answering. "They've helped my people before," she said. But her voice lacked conviction. Ryan didn't push her, but his hand stayed close to the small blade he kept hidden in his boot. They reached a hidden camp, small huts woven from branches and leaves. The air smelled of smoke and roasting meat. The girl spoke with the leader while Ryan took in the surroundings. Too many eyes on them, too many whispers that stopped the moment he looked. His unease grew when the leader offered them a place to rest. Ryan insisted on taking the outermost hut. He wanted space between them and the rest of the camp. Night came quickly under the thick canopy. The jungle noises were louder here, almost like the forest itself was restless. Ryan pretended to sleep, lying still in the shadows of the hut. It wasn't long before he heard footsteps, light and careful, approaching. He shifted his hand toward his blade but stayed silent. A shadow moved at the entrance, and then the flap lifted. It was one of the green-skinned aliens, his weapon in hand. Ryan moved fast, grabbing the attacker's arm and twisting it hard. The alien hissed, dropping the weapon in the distance. He heard shouts, more footsteps running toward the hut. The girl burst in, eyes wide. "They've called the Federation," she gasped. Ryan didn't waste time asking why. He grabbed her arm and pulled her into the jungle. Behind them, voices shouted orders, and the sound of a ship descending filled the night. They ran without looking back. The jungle swallowed them in darkness, branches whipping against their faces as they pushed through. Ryan's breathing was heavy, but the girl moved like she knew every twist and root beneath their feet, behind them. The distant hum of Federation engines grew louder. The sound of a hunting predator. The girl led him toward a rocky slope covered in vines. Without a word, she pulled them aside, revealing a narrow opening in the stone. They slipped inside. The air suddenly cool and damp. The tunnel twisted downward, lit only by faint blue crystals embedded in the walls. Ryan touched one as they passed. It pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. The girl didn't stop until they reached a wide chamber deep underground. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it, something that looked alive. It was armor, but unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. The surface shimmered as if made of liquid metal, shifting and flowing slowly over itself. Long tendrils of energy drifted from it, reaching toward them. Ryan took a step back. "What is that?" he asked. "The last weapon of my people," she said softly. "And the reason the Federation wants you." He stared at her. "Me?" She nodded. "It's not just a weapon, it chooses its host," she explained. "And it has already chosen you." Before he could protest, the armor stirred, the tendrils stretching further until they touched his skin. The cold was shocking at first, then heat flooded through him like fire in his veins. Ryan tried to pull back, but the armor climbed over his arm, spreading across his chest in seconds. It covered him completely. The weight was nothing if anything. He felt lighter, faster, stronger. The girl stepped closer, her eyes fixed on him. "You can fight them now," she said, "but it will take from you every time you use a chore strength. Your life." He clenched his fists, feeling the power hum through his body, above them. The sound of the Federation's ships grew closer. He could hear boots hitting the jungle floor, the hunt tightening around them. Ryan looked at her. "If I use this," he asked, "can we get out of here alive?" Her silver eyes met his. "Yes," she said, "but you'll never be the same." The jungle shook as Federation troops closed in. Their lights cut through the darkness, sweeping over the trees like hunting beasts. Ryan could feel the armor's energy flowing through him, sharp and alive. Every movement felt faster, every breath easier. The girl stood beside him, her silver eyes locked on the sound of the approaching soldiers. When the first squad burst into the clearing, Ryan moved. He was a shadow and a storm at once. The armor reacted to his thoughts, forming shields and blades of shimmering light. The soldiers fired, but the energy bolts bent away, curving harmlessly into the ground. In moments, the squad was down, their weapons scattered in the dirt. The girl grabbed his arm. "This is only the start," she said. "They'll send more than ships, than everything they have." Ryan looked toward the sky, where the faint glow of a massive Federation flagship cut through the clouds. "That's where we finish it," he said. They found a captured skiff at the edge of the jungle. Ryan took the controls, pushing the engines to their limit. The armor formed around his hands, merging with the ship's systems as if it had always belonged there. The skiff shot upward, breaking through the clouds into the cold silence of space. Ahead, the flagship loomed, a dark fortress bristling with weapons. Docking was impossible. They would never be allowed near, so Ryan didn't dock. He rammed the skiff into one of the outer hangars, the armor absorbing the impact. They spilled out into chaos. Federation troops already pouring in. Ryan moved through them like a blade through smoke. Every strike of the armor was precise, every defense perfect. They fought their way to the command bridge. The captain stood there, shock in his eyes, as he saw Ryan. "You don't understand what you're protecting," the captain said. "You're protecting her." Ryan shot back, pointing at the girl and the truth. The girl activated a device she had carried the whole time. A wave of light burst from it. Every screen in the flagship and across the Federation's networks flickered with images. The experiments, the cages, the destruction of her people's worlds. The truth was no longer hidden. The crew hesitated, some lowering their weapons. The captain's orders went unanswered. Outside, fleets across the galaxy began to turn against the Federation. The girl stepped beside Ryan, her voice calm but strong. "It's over," she said. "For now," Ryan replied, as they left the bridge. The armor slowly receded from his body. Ryan felt the weight of exhaustion settle in, but also something else resolve. The Federation had been wounded, but not destroyed. There would be more battles, more hunts, more danger. But now he knew who he was fighting for, and he knew he would never stop.